still is literacy. So you understand? So that's how important our information, our history, because if we don't know where we come from, we don't know where we're going. You know, and I'm a plumber real quick, and we learned that bar. If you know anything about cleaning drains, drain. Yeah, and I just want to thank you for coming and having a perspective, a unique perspective. Each one of us has a unique perspective on what's actually happening with the branding of our books, but also with the attack on our young people being literate. You know, so at this time, I have here 10 questions, and I would like for you to get you all's unique perspective on them, and also we would like to have audience participation based upon correspondence of your statements. Is that fine?
Yes.
All right, so right now I want to first introduce our panelists that we're having today. And first we're going to have Mr. Mark, Brother Mark, introduce himself.
Yes, my name is Mark Hampton. I've made my career in computer science, data science, information technology, as well as most recently in the areas of artificial intelligence. You know, I'm aware of how vital it is to have information, and how information relates to learning, and how artificial intelligence relates to natural intelligence.
Yes.
In terms of how we have our language library, large language library, and how that allows us to make context of what's going on around us and our ability to interact with our environment.
Very good. Look at the end of the day. Your name, sir?
Good evening or afternoon, everybody. I'm Dr. Stephen Jones. I'm the Associate Dean in the College of Engineering at Villanova University. So I'm working with engineering students all the time, trying to give them the preparation to be successful in math and science, something that some believe that we can't do, but we can do, because I see it every year. And the foundation of that is reading. It's amazing how many people think that math is math by itself. You can't do math unless you can read. All of it comes together. Right. So I'm hoping to really kind of talk about how important it is as it relates to, we're going to resist. You know, we're going to use reading in the right place. Right. We're going to have to make the connections. Yes. You know, from elementary school to middle school to high school. And we're going to have to stop allowing our children in that K through third grade period to be far behind.
Yes.
Because that's how they're predicting prison enrollment based on the ability of our children to read. So knowing that, I'm hoping that we can inspire some people as they listen to say, hey, how can we help our children early on to get what they need so they can go further than where they are?
Thank you, Dr. Jones. Very good. Looking forward to this dialogue.
So my name is Cleus Valori Young, and I'm the founder and president of the Tebet Foundation. And before the Tebet Foundation, I'm also an author of 9 books. So this is actually relevant to the work that I've done. And for me as an author, I know their context around writing that the actual audience who actually digests the book doesn't get. And that is something that we want to talk about today, because it's not just about reading. It's what you would call a spiritual connection to you, for your ability to what is called read between the lines. And read between the lines, like I'm saying A and B. I have A and B here, right? But what's in between? What's the backstory that's being told? And I also did therapeutic work. So it's understanding that when you're dealing with a client may say certain things to you up front, but you have to learn how to read between the lines of what the client is not sharing with you and put 2 and 2 together. So the avenue of reading actually helps you to develop that type of capability, that you can see this, you can see that, and put them together, but you're also being able to read between the lines.
Very good. Yes.
And my name is Forrest Clouden. And basically, I can just reflect back on me being a working man. I'm retired now, and I did like 22 years for the phone company. took 5 years off, and then went back and worked for the school district as a building engineer for 12 and a half years.
Mhm.
Now, the first part of my life, I got to know the community because I was living in the community. And I was going inside people's houses, so I saw inside what was going on inside. And then later on, I was in the school district, so I got to learn what was going on in the school district, because a lot of people had their comments about the school district, but unless you're in the school district, you don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
And recently, I tried to get on the run for the way I feel about it now is even though we have a new superintendent,
Mhm.
his ideas are too slow. So I give him one more year, and then I'm gonna say it's time for him to go. And that's basically it, because we don't have time to waste.
Okay.
We don't have time to waste. So that's
Right.
my history.
Well, with that being said, y'all ready to get into our first?
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah.
What, I'm gonna ask each and one of you, so think about this before you respond. What is your number one concern regarding literacy and the attack on Black information, particularly, or the truth? What is your number one concern regarding being able to get information?
Yeah. So from my perspective, my number one concern is that the dominant influence in young people's lives and most people's lives these days is the media, and where that content is created,
Mm-hmm.
and the motivation behind the content being created
Mm-hmm.
and the content being delivered. We're all aware of how targeted content can be these days.
Mm-hmm.
And my concern is that we are unaware of how aggressive some of this content, or from my perspective on understanding robotics and how it relates to cognitive science,
Mhm.
human behavior, how much influence that content is having on people and society as a whole. So that's my number one concern.
Okay, so you're saying technology, no, media, the influence.
And the source. So there's motives and there's objectives behind this content and the
Okay.
targeting in a lot of cases. And a lot of people that are on the receiving end are not aware of it, which kind of makes sort of awareness
Okay,
and its ability to influence their behavior
gotcha.
and their influence their ability to decide.
Gotcha.
So that's sort of my number one concern. So it's not necessarily technology, it's what's driving the technology.
I got you. Dr. Jones,
Yes,
your concern.
my concern.
Thank you. All right. We have more guests, more participants. Go on in. Right now, just to bring you up to speed, we are, so you can think about what it is you would like to bring up, what we're discussing, our number. To is concerned.
So,
Mm,
so that the parents are the first impact that children have in the love for reading and desire for reading, and that the parents play a major role in that.
mhm.
A lot of times, if parents are sending their children to school with the expectation that the school is going to provide that.
Yeah,
So, how can we empower parents to be better equipped to help their children to read and to stay on level so that they can be successful? in
parental
whatever-
participation.
Yes.
Brother Cleo?
My major concern is really looking at it from a reading standpoint and dealing with books, right? I know we get the essence of reading. And when I look at it, do we really understand what reading is all about? Because at the end of the day, you look at it and it's like, hey, I could read this. I'm literate, right? But reading a book doesn't make you understand what's really going on in life. So here I could now read the book, and in the academic setting, it says I'm literate, right? And I could read it, but the biggest issue that I heard that the school district is struggling with is comprehension. So you can read and you're literate in what you're reading, but you could even comprehend.
Can't go further.
Yeah, you can't comprehend what you have just read. And that's my biggest concern, that we're getting our children to read and write, but that comprehension avenue of what is it that you just read? How is it connected to you? And I think you even said it with the math. I teach math as well, and it's like looking at it, it's like math is not just math. Math is your entire life. But if you sit there and you just read it and, oh, I'm able to do 2 and 2 equal 4, and you just get it as that, you're at the least level.
You say application.
So it's the comprehension part that I'm really worried about. And then now, because we're not able to comprehend certain things, then now we develop what is called a resistance. Because now I don't want to read books. I want to sit here and play the game, right? So you develop your own resistance now because someone have never taught you the true aspect of what reading is about. And again, I go back to what I started with. When you read, you're supposed to read between the lines. There's a lot of things that are going on, like, all right, you can go out there in a crowd, right? And you can start to pick up certain things and you're reading what's going on. And this is what they call psychic. Psychic do what? Reading.
Right.
So they're reading not only just the person here, I'm reading your future. So it's like, hey, sit down and read. What did this just give to you where you can comprehend and make your life much better? And that's
not just the letters between the lines, but the meaning between the lines.
Which is the comprehension part. And that's my major concern, that we can read and say that we're literate, but at the end of the day, you don't ever comprehend what you have.
Right.
And for me, I know as an author, there are certain things that I put in my book, and when I have discussion with the audience, they're not able to see it. So it's looking at it and saying, hey, you didn't see it. And it made a big difference to me. My last book that I just published, I was actually getting great feedback. And the feedback that I was getting, I was like, no, that's not. No, you're getting it. Like, I just gave you life. And I literally, I think when you asked me how the book was doing, and I'm like, hey, it's not doing well because I'm not selling books anymore. What I started to do, I developed what is called book tasting events. And it was the average, not what you can just read. And it literally made me look at things different, because it was like you're giving me feedback based on what you read because you're literate, but you didn't comprehend what is it that I really wrote into that. And it moved me away from doing book signings to now doing a series of events around the city called book tasting. And I'm giving you a taste of what this is really about.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
My answer is just short and
Yes,
sweet.
sir.
Can you imagine being at a school board meeting, a new superintendent, and what comes out of his mouth is, our teachers don't know how to teach the children how to read. 2024. Can you imagine that? So what have they been teaching all this time? You know, so that's where we're at in Philadelphia with the state of the schools in Philadelphia. These teachers, which are basically 70 to 80% white, don't know how to do their jobs, crying about showing up certified. So certified to not be able to teach. And then even for the school board to start coming up with excuses for the teachers. So that's what we're having going on right here in Philadelphia right now.
That's your concern. Gotcha.
That's it.
And before we be going, would you introduce yourself and your background, and then give us your concern regarding what the brothers are speaking on regarding?
My name is Katie Morris. I'm a professional photographer, taught poetry and photography at Temple in the past that program for 21 years. I have my own photography studio and I still teach both. I'm also a father and advocate for education and academics. And to answer the question, if you ban books, you're banning language. And without language, we have no form of communication. And without etymology and linguistics, which our children won't know, then how can we, once we become ancestors, they will no longer be able to tell the stories.
Right.
Like who's going to tell our story? If they can't read, they can't write.
Right. They already don't write cursive.
Right. They don't even know how to sign your name. So that's why everything is so digitized now. But we got to remember the legal concept of the signature is you're not legally bound to it no matter what that computer program says, because you can challenge it. That's not my actual signature.
Right.
That's just a version of it. Because you said check this box and how to estimate. And as long as they assimilate, an example would be my middle son. When he was in high school, I spent the day in his school with him. Every class except for art and music were the ones where there was no robotics. Got to art and music, the creativity, they don't do what they want. So that's like gym class, which they don't have anymore.
Right.
So everything now, that was the only creative outlet, music and art. Everything else was sit in a row, the same thing they do with government workers, line them up, or even in office workers. They line them up and give them everybody got to be finished this by this time. And there's, when I was in school, I'm probably one of the youngest in there, 61, coming up in school in the 60s and 70s, we had to raise our hands, and you wanted to be called over. You wanted the teacher to pick me. Right. They don't have that energy. Right. So they don't want to get picked for anything. They just want to, like I heard, go home and play video games. Right. And there's I wouldn't let my sons play video games because it teaches them isolation skills and not socialization skills, and how to connect. They get angry, but there's no outlet for that anger. So when I didn't let them beat me in chess, my oldest son, he's 34 now, last year, said, Dad, how come you never let me beat you in chess? I said, how would you know how to win if I let you? He said, but I never had the joy of winning. I said, well, you also never knew how to accept defeat. That's important. So these kids, with them banning books, that's just the white man's way of saying we don't want to accept defeat. Because we are the ones on the front line. And they already know they're being defeated because this is the awakening. And we not because of technology, but because of our genetic knowledge itself. Because we was doing this before technology.
True. Okay, we're getting good. All right. So how can reading be considered a form of resistance against censorship and oppression?
Yeah, so it's kind of self-explanatory, almost the way you said it. By not falling into the trap of illiteracy and ignorance, for lack of a better word. Reading and becoming more knowledgeable, becoming more aware of our environment, becoming more aware of how to interact with our environment successfully, using the chess analogy, towards victory. Towards actually achieving our ends. I think it's simplest that way.
Okay.
I think just to add to that, now I need to think about how do you take that and actually write yourself. So it's empowering for you to have the ability to read it, comprehend it, and then write yourself and tell your own story and tell your own experiences, which I think a lot of times students are kind of stuck because all they know is what they're hearing. But there's a story that they have the power to tell as well.
That's a very big statement, sir. So you're saying your ability to read is also connected to your ability to write,
To express yourself.
to express your own life. That's like a form of freedom.
Yeah. Like I think just to extend on that, in terms of being literate, being able to recognize an object and have a label for it to be able to express it.
Right.
You could have a feeling, an experience, that you want to express in writing or verbally, but just don't have vocabulary to do so.
Right.
That's a camera because we recognize it's a camera. We have a label for it. We can
Right.
recognize it.
Right.
But if, just to your point, if you don't have that library to read nor write, then not only can you not understand your environment, you can't express your own experience.
So a lot of what we're seeing could possibly be frustration in the community. It could be a form of, well, now it makes me think of when we say illiterate. You know, that's like that's like an illness, not being able to, because then you're forced to express yourself with
Nonverbal.
Prometheus. You know what I'm saying?
Words, they're filler words, or I'd say
Interesting.
when people are cursing, that's because they don't have other words to express that. But building the vocabulary enables you to express yourself in bigger ways, in different ways, in more creative ways.
More precise ways.
Interesting. This is good. Go ahead.
And then just to go back, if you look at the word illiteracy, right? What are the first three letters?
LL.
Ill. So that's what it makes it.
That's what I'm saying.
But even when you said A, you're able to read and it allows you to write, right?
Yeah.
So what's the next step that normally comes? Reading, writing, and what?
Arithmetic.
Arithmetic. What is arithmetic?
Math.
Math,
Math,
right?
yeah.
So reading, writing, and then arithmetic is math, right? Math allows you to solve problems. So this is what you're doing when you start the journey of reading. You're learning how to read, then you're going to learn how to write, and then you're going to learn how to solve problems. So this is what reading actually does. And this is what I'm saying. If you don't comprehend these things and you just say, oh, I'm illiterate, I can read it, but you can't solve problems. So what's the use of reading if you're not using it to solve problems for your own life and the life of others? Which actually, if you look at it now, lit, correct, right? L-I-T is the concept of the light.
Right.
So when you're able to read and write now, it takes you out of the darkness. And if you're able to take yourself out of the darkness, which is solving problems, then you can now solve problems for others as well.
Right. Makes me think of when you mentioned a few minutes ago etymology and hermeneutics,
Which
the
is
language.
all of that
Breaking
is
it
a part
down.
of reading. Yeah.
Right.
Again, short and sweet. We're dealing with at least 80,000 children. What do you do with a number that high? Where you have an annual graduating class of 8,000 children. You know, and when they say they don't graduate on a third grade level, I don't even believe it's a third grade level anymore. You know, because I've been asking the district to prove it's a third grade level by testing everybody from the third grade to the 12th grade on third grade English language arts and math without a calculator. Because that's the same form of test for an entry level job. Okay, so if they can do that, at least we know when they graduate, they can take an entry level test. But here again, back to the number of 80,000 children. What do you do with that high?
I want to hear the question again. So I can
The question again was, how can reading be considered a form of resistance against censorship and oppression?
And sometimes we don't have to necessarily read to speak of the experience, because we can tell the story based on the things we've seen.
Right.
Like, you know, if we were there to witness George Floyd, how many poems came from that and still coming from that and other things. But then those that wrote down what we said, even if we didn't, like, we could be in a moment and somebody could record it and transcribe it. So now we got to be active listeners as well. But the other part of it is, which I wrote down, is when we talk about literacy and literacy, the wordplay and etymology. And so if the literacy was a disability, the government would legislate and fund and fight for funds for treatment. If we want to make it an epidemic, then they'll fight it. So let's take those half the white kids in these schools that they read and see what happens.
Maybe a different.
Then, or they'll try to, separate. Because some of the grandparents are in the clubs with the parents. So, and if you out in the streets with your kids and then who's watching the little ones, who's taking the tablet from them, doing the homework with them. Now it's the great grands, people, we're the great grands now,
Right.
So we are,
I like that.
we are the weapon. We're the voice. We are the pages. Because they got to look to us, and some there are not all these parents are bad. There's some that still look to us, and we still look to those that still have our parents. I don't, but I still talk to my elders. I remember when I had to introduce Sonia Sanchez at Temple one night for an award she was presenting, and I couldn't think of anything to say. I mean, I was writing down like, what am I going to say to introduce her? And I've been around her so many times, her and maybe, actually Hakeem Madabuti, not Hakeem, I'm sorry, Amir Baraka. We did stuff at the library, and I was like, I knew what to say when I introduced him, but I'm like, well, what am I going to say? He said, say what comes to mind. I said, what will become of my words when I become an ancestor? And then I just went on to talk about one of her books, From Homegirls and Hand Grenades, and her favorite, how her use of colors throughout the whole book. And but that's revolution.
Right.
And we can encode our message through metaphors and song.
Right.
But we don't have Marvin anymore.
I was just going to say songs are while we're reading.
Right.
Too.
So, but white folks are reading and writing on the wall right now, though. They're reading it because they're like, all right, we got to stop it. They got to stop everything. Tennessee is the worst. Tennessee right now, they form a legislation where black schools are not getting funded. Like a white school will get $500 million, where black college might get $5 million in Tennessee, and that's legislation now.
Wow.
So they're going to underfund us. They're going to financially hurt us.
That's a great segue.
And they're going to try to hurt us in the justice system. They're going to try to hurt us in already in academics. So they're relying on people to depend on being what these kids do on social media now, influencers.
Right.
You're not influencing anybody. You just rebranding stuff that's been sold already.
Right.
You're reselling old products, or you're getting paid by somebody to sell their story. So,
How can we raise awareness? How can we educate and raise awareness about the importance of diverse literature and the dangers of book banning? How do we bring awareness to this?
So I mean, Dr. Jones mentioned about relying on parents, and we talked about our elders and the generations. And what I find sometimes though is there's not the level of respect. So it's going back to what I was saying about the content, and what we're talking about, resistance that's been built up to knowledge and wisdom. It's like I don't know the global answer, but I suspect it's in parenting and leadership, like personal leadership, not like handing a toddler a tablet, but actually presenting oneself as someone that's literate and that cares about curating their input and curating the input of others, rather than just being subject to the barrage of content, that just going through a day. I think I read a statistic where the average American is subject to 10,000 advertising impressions a day. So for every conversation I'm trying to have with my daughter about something relevant, she's getting 10,000 other ideas about whatever that subject is. So I think it's parenting, I think it's leadership, I think it's awareness of the competition, so to speak, that we have in the culture and in the society.
I just want to speak on that. bring awareness.
Yeah, and real, well, like he said, keep it short. Change.
I just keep it short.
Yeah, no, nothing personal. No, but you know, I'm listening and I'm coming up with like the short bullet points now. If we change the algorithm, like what he
My
just
man,
said,
talking that talk.
because he said his, you know, they can have a conversation and she'll get ideas. So if only we change what we talk about, and then the algorithm will change, or they'll block it. Anytime I talk about on my page, I know what gets, I can tell when I talk about a poem that I wrote called 1899, written while on a flight from Detroit to Chicago while I was on tour as a poet. I wrote a poem called 1899, and it was based on a book I read from 100 Years of Lynchings. And there was an algorithm, but when that algorithm came and they caught the word lynching, and they said, oh, it's dangerous, a threat, and suicide, and all that stuff. So now I had to change how I spelled the word, and use app symbols and stuff.
We got to be more
So you got to
more creative.
right, you got to encrypt the message now. So now we got to go back to Ebonics.
Pig Latin.
Pig
I
Latin.
got you.
You know, we got to go back to Ebonics. You know, so the things that they laughed at, if we go back to it, these white kids are like, what are they saying? But you know, but they want to put it in. Somebody gonna put it in the music and explain it. You know, we're gonna have the race traders. You know, we got, you know, faces in the bottom of the well.
Right.
You know, that's want to keep up and come along. Yeah, we just got to change how we deliver the message, how we communicate.
More creative.
And more creative. So I have the honor of knowing the last sports personally, and they always start off with the djembe. Baba Tunde will play the djembe, play that first before any words are spoken.
Amen. That's what's up.
Well, I like to keep it short.
Yeah.
If that was short, I
I mean, I'm short with baseball, he's short.
The only thing I can say is test scores. You know, we can't believe the narrative. They want you to believe that everything is going up, everything's getting better, but it's not. You know, so I'm just saying test scores, don't believe the narrative. And one of my missions is always to debate the narrative. That's what I do. I show up at school board meetings and I challenge the narrative. That's what I do. So I challenge the narrative. That's short.
Oh, damn. Statement. Before you go further with your statement, you mentioned, I could see that as a solution also. The book tasting.
Yeah.
You know, that's a creative approach, like pop-up and stuff like that. So go ahead.
So we'll talk about that. But awareness, I think the number one thing is starting out doing things like this, where you're having discussion. So the more you have discussion around a topic, is the more people become aware of it. Second thing is to look at what is called the environment that you're in. And we're in an environment where things have to be valuable for people to really take heed of it. So if we're saying, hey, we need children to read, then we got to show the value that is in reading, right?
Yes.
Which now leads to the third and final thing that I would look at around getting this to become an awareness issue. It is creating examples. So show me somebody who has used reading to make a profitable life. Because this is what you're telling our children, hey, read, because this could actually lead you to this, which is a part of the value.
Can't be what we haven't seen.
Yeah. And it's looking at today, it's like, yeah, I want to read. But if I'm looking over there and that child is playing video game or just taking a picture and going on social media and making $100,000, you think I'm going to take up a book?
Right.
No. The concept is if I could see somebody reading and using reading as a value that makes me substantial, then now I want to become that, because this is what I'm aspiring to do. When you look at social media, it's taking a picture, right? Nothing with reading, taking a picture or video, post it. Now I'm making millions of dollars. Why am I going to take this up?
Right.
I have bills to pay, right? I have this to furnish with my life. I'm just looking at a young child growing up and saying, hey, this is what I want to become. The first thing we're teaching them is to become what? Financial literate, right?
Right.
So the avenue of this, if this is not showing me how I could become,
Use it.
some type of value in society, then it's like, hey, why am I utilizing this? Which now goes back, we have to have examples. I mean, I keep hearing people saying, hey, go to school and do this and do this. But show me the examples of the people who came out of that school system and now is doing something profitable.
So we need to see the actual reading being
And
celebrated.
And an example, you have to have example. Like
Right.
every manufacturer that's coming out to sell a product, they show you an example what this product is going to be
Remember
like.
the posters in the 80s? Remember the reading is fundamental?
Yeah.
And you had Michael Jordan,
You see?
you had, famous people,
So those are, you're showing them example of what life could be if you
Fallen
take
books.
This, yeah.
But not only that, but it's just not the athletes.
well,
It's all the other.
yeah,
You know, so sometimes we're so focused on that,
right.
and the chances of a young person becoming the basketball star
Sorry.
is like 1 in a million chances. But
Right.
you could do other kinds of careers.
I agree.
Well, I don't know what those other careers are, and I may not even find about those careers until I possibly get into high school. But why not make the whole career expression happen throughout their lifetime? Like they're getting different experiences, they're taking that reading and they're applying it to something.
Yes,
And then they're more enthusiastic about the learning.
it's good. It's real good.
I was previously on a panel, this is short. I was previously on a panel with some high schoolers, and I was telling them about, why don't you use, to your point, why don't you use the internet to discover a course curriculum, some syllabus,
Mhm.
your career, how that information is structured. Instead of minding other people's business, use it to mind your own business.
I like that. Hashtag mind your business.
But that hashtag
Mind
has
your
been out there.
business.
That hashtag is out there.
Because I'm aware of
Mind.
from what is said in the media, right? There are two, and I mean very successful individuals. One is in sports and one is in music. And when you listen to what the media said about them, they're not able to read.
Mhm.
So it's like, hey, I became successful like in sports, like at the height of this level of success, right? But I'm not able to read. What can you go tell that person now to say, hey, go sit down and read a book? I just made, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
I just heard
Yeah, so
NPR.
it's like showing the example of saying, hey, this is what reading brought me to this level. And when our children begin to see those things now
We
they-
celebrate it.
Yeah.
NPR posted an article a couple weeks ago. You can look it up. It stated that I think it was 80% of college graduates
Mm.
do not pick up a book. They don't read.
Because there's no value.
Well, they read a lot.
Yeah, they're not seeing
A
the
lot of
value.
like we burned out. They don't want to read. That's what they're saying. They're saying that most college students, when they get out of college, they don't read books. So it's like, you know what I'm saying? We got to celebrate. We got to see the benefit. Going back to you, Cleo.
It was,
Well. Anyway, see, that's one side of it. That's the talented side.
Mhm.
So when the person is not talented, 9 times out of 10 they have to take a test.
Yeah.
Okay, to get a job.
So,
And
They
the different
can't
levels of pay, you have to score higher on the test. So you still come back to taking a test. So you have to read. You have to
Right.
understand material.
Yes.
Then there's a job posted. Then you have to take a test. Do you pass the test or do you fail the test? Just like we were talking about air traffic controllers and everything else prior to. What kind of talent can you really you can't show no picture to be an air traffic controller, right? You got to take a test.
Right.
And then they start off at $100,000.
Yes.
So here we go. That's the value of reading to get knowledge because I can't sing or dance, or bounce a ball
Right.
or catch a ball,
Right.
but I can take a test.
Yes. So you should. So that person,
Yeah, that's
I would recommend, because when you got me thinking now, we need like auxiliary annex, modules where you can get we could be taught how to read, taught how to at least how to take a test. Because I know good students that don't know how to take tests. They're bad test takers, though. See what I'm saying? There's a whole other dynamic about even how to approach a test. So what I'm hearing now, and I'm writing it down, is that we also need preparation, test prep, as part of the literacy, a part of the being able to even approach. Because, like I said, my son went to go take that. He went to apply for that air traffic control. We haven't gotten the results back yet, but he took the test. He's a great student. You know, I hope he passed. You know what I mean? But we don't know.
But the other side of taking the test too is, for our community, we have to watch when they tell us you failed the test by 1 or 2 points.
Yes.
You don't fail a test by 1 or 2 points. You just don't. They're just not hiring you. They looked at you and said you black and you this, that.
That's the 2 points.
That's the 2 points. So you really, that's the other thing. And then our community gravitated to the phrase where we don't take tests. We're bad test takers. You just gotta study. That's all, and take the test. But you'll run with because you failed, but you might not have failed. Somebody told me I failed, and my father happened to know somebody. They checked up. He said, "Your son didn't fail that test." And that's to get into a good company, and they got me in. So I'm just saying, we gotta also school them on this is the system not accepting you. So be ready for that.
Okay.
Ready for that.
We have some other people want to come on.
Oh, wow.
Okay, this is Maurice.
Junebug. You don't know what you're doing. You and Maurice don't know how to work.
Unmute. Okay, unmute your mic, Maurice. Maurice, can you
You
unmute?
walked on camera.
All right, I'm going to ask the next question.
Go
So
ahead.
you had mentioned about the students not wanting to read after they finish. I had met a young lady in LA while touring who worked in finance, and I was like talking about that's our last conversation. And then I was in a bookstore on the street. The young lady said, I might as well take you home now.
Exactly.
And I took her home.
Right.
This was in the 90s.
Right. Right. Exactly. So, question, y'all. What, maybe for Mark, how can technology be both a tool for circumventing censorship and a means of reinforcing it?
So because we can with the technology that's available, we can self-publish.
Mm-hmm.
We can even use artificial intelligence to help us self-publish.
I did it.
I have myself.
I did it one day.
Yeah, did it in a day.
Yeah.
So I think that's the tool for sort of circumvention. What was the other part of your question? I'm sorry.
Here it is. It is, how can technology be both a tool for circumventing censorship
Right, that was the first one.
and a means of reinforcing it?
I'd say the same thing. I'd say the same answer applies to both sides of that question. In that you can still apply the self-publishing aspect to both circumvent as well as reinforce. And maybe that's my understanding of the question, because you're still making available content that might not otherwise be made available.
True. Okay, I like it.
And so for me,
Michael Jones.
I started a podcast, and that podcast was a way to take the books that I've written and make them come alive. So they can still have the books, but they can also listen to me talk about all kinds of education and career topics. So it becomes the resistance from a different perspective.
Yes, I like that. Brother Clay?
I mean, as far as technology, everyone else is using it for their benefit. So why not use it for ours? So it's looking at it, hey, if we have this in the book format, why not put it in a technological standard? So you look at it, and this is something that I really want to pay attention to, because it's like going back to what you were saying about the collegiate level and looking at the academic, right? It's what's the highest grade you get in the academics?
12.
The highest grade, GPA.
4.0.
4.0, right? And when it comes to technology, what G are we now?
5.
So at the academic level, right, we're 4G. And at the technological level, we're 5G. Do you see how we're having what is called an imbalance and realizing that you're not preparing the students to match the technology that's here? So if we're not utilizing technology, then we're always going to be left behind because we're still at the 4G level, which is called 4.0.
I
So
agree.
this is what I would look at. We have to learn how to incorporate the technology and then now move the 4.0 to now 5.0, and you match technology. So when you leave school from an academic level, you can blend in society. You don't feel like you're left out, which is what you were just saying. I don't want to read anymore, right? I don't want to pick up a book anymore. Why? Because those things now are at a lower level. You're in a society now that's at a higher level. So you're saying, let me now try to operate on this. I can't sit here and take this anymore. So that's a part of what you're looking at.
Would you say that smartphones are making us more?
Go ahead and say it.
So it is
Dumb. Thank you. We got smartphones and dumb minds.
So it all depends on what you utilize your phone for.
Right.
Because it's called smartphone, you're supposed to utilize it for a smart avenue of your life.
Right.
Again, look at it as we talk about the aviation concept, right? 50 years ago, there was the plane, but now the plane was utilized as a weapon for 9/11, right?
Yeah.
So you can now
Famous
take the
fighters.
plane. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
You take something that's good and you make it into something bad. That's
Right.
the gene of who we are.
Yeah.
So it's called smartphone, meaning that you're supposed to utilize it to make a
Benefit.
smart decision.
Right.
What is it that we're utilizing it for? We're taking it and making it into something that's not useful to our life.
I told my daughter maybe 15 years ago, the phone's not the android, you are. Because of the ability that it has to influence our behavior.
I love it. That's strong. Technology.
Yeah, technology. Here again, all of my answers is reference to the school district of Philadelphia.
And how is that being implemented in the school district of Philadelphia?
No exposure.
No smart boards.
Smart boards, but no exposure.
Mm.
You know, right now, you see, I'm an advocate of bringing back junior high schools, 7th, 8th, and 9th.
Yep.
Okay, right now they have a K-8 configuration. They're just totally warehousing our students.
Wow.
I gave a number of 80,000. That's 80,000 blacks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now we're talking 125, what they would call middle grade locations. So you're never going to get the same exposure in all of those locations. So we say downsize it to 25 junior high schools. Now you can give them the same exposure, the same technology, the same across the board, and that would affect 20,000 children across the city. So exposure, downsize, right size,
Mm-hmm.
and then go from there.
So why won't they do it? They cry broke.
That's one of the false narratives.
Resistance.
No such thing as
Well, yeah, we know, but you know that's the
no, they
that's
do
what
that.
say.
They just do that so we have what we have today.
Yeah.
That's all. That's what we have today.
My wife and I used to pay our children to read books.
Mm.
You know, read all kinds of things. And what I'm saying is that still works. It still works. You know what I mean? And I need a report.
But that's
Like, give me Animal Farm.
but they're seeing value in that, right? Because if I sit down and read, now I could get something valuable out of it.
Right.
And that's how we have to look at it from, listen, I get this, all this stuff, man. But at the end of the day, if we can't find value in the thing, that means nothing.
But the value is subjective, right? I mean, the value, what makes something worth something?
Each person may see the different worth of that value, but that thing is still valuable.
Yes.
And this is what we have to look at. The whole American system is based on a value system. And if they didn't, how would I put it? Because we have no value to the system, this is why we're treated that way.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at that, it's like, hey, I don't need you anymore. In that context, now I have AI. So now I find more value in AI than I would have with you. So you can go about your business now Now I have AI. So I see more value in what? AI. So this is what now is being brought to us. And if you don't understand if you see value here, then where do you not see value anymore?
It seems like social media was part of that
It is
conditioning
all.
because it allowed you to have friends without having friends. You know, you didn't have
No
to.
personal contact.
Right. So now it goes back to what you were just saying. It's like it's not real.
Read between the lines. That's what I'm saying. These things are not accidental. And this is what reading does for the average person who comprehends it. It allows you to see these things. It's not just
Isolation.
social media just came about like that. Now we have AI. All these things are things that are planned. And if we're not able to read between the lines and see what's going on, we just think that these things just appear just like that. That's how you would see a book just appear like that. No, it's been months and months of preparation that got you to this level.
I saw this morning, I'm sorry, two sisters.
He's not on the screen right
I saw two sisters, African American sisters, who have no background in mathematics. They solved a 2000
now. Oh, yeah, so
Uh,
a math equation.
a 2,000-year-old math equation, and they not even mathematicians. She was like, "We're not mathematicians.
They like still in high school.
They still in high school, but they can read."
You had mentioned earlier
reading, writing,
about people making a living off of reading. And I did that being a poet, because in order for me to write these poems, I had to read the books. I had to read whatever history books. I at one point, and I toured a lot, and I toured a lot of people. And if I knew I was doing the show with the last post of Gil Scott Heron, I read books based on what they lived, in the context of the subject they talked about. So I would be relevant to them and their presence. So I can have conversations with them on at least an equal, respectful playing field without trying to be their equal.
Right.
And
Respect.
one thing that I read a lot of was the history of Egypt, the world leaders, politics. How if this leader thought this way, if Hannibal acted and behaved and fought this way, and Caesar was this way, what was Caesar's objective? What was Rome's objective? What was Africa's objective? What was their goal and everything? And then it became a poem. If I wanted to tell the story about the African drum, God is a drummer, but I used the orishas as the drums. Each drum was represented by an orisha.
Right.
And each sound that element made was the sound the drum actually made. So I tied it all together.
I see you.
And then, so we have to read. But I got paid. I got sent to the University of Hawaii to speak at a symposium where an Indian woman from India said in England, where she lived, I'm treated as a black woman, but in the United States, I'm treated as if I'm white. I say, welcome to America. Because where you are in London, I'm here every day. And I was only black male. And everybody else was from everywhere else. So reading got me there. So we can make a living reading, but we need to show them the examples that come from reading.
Right.
There
Dr.
was,
Joe?
just when you're done, the question was posed that they want each person to state which article you read. Yeah, in the magazine. I mean, which article you wrote in the magazine.
So
That's at the end.
I'm always looking for solutions. So just in case parents aren't aware of this, that a lot of the colleges have what they call summer bridge programs. And a summer bridge program will allow the student to spend 4 to 6 weeks living on campus before they actually arrive on campus.
Yeah.
Those students who participate in those programs graduate at a higher rate than the students who attend the university. So summer bridge programs are really, really important. And the second part of it goes back to reading. A lot of students get to college and don't know how much reading they're going to have to do when they get there. And so the summer program gives them an opportunity to see how much reading, how much comprehension, how much understanding they're going to need to have. The second thing,
prepared.
yes, and then comprehension. A lot of times, again, in our high schools, if they are reading, they're reading for volume of reading, not comprehension.
Yes.
When you get to college, you have to do what? Comprehend what you're reading. If
You
you've
gotta write about
never
it.
done that, the whole first year you struggle because you can't think beyond, I've read it, I did definitions and spelling, I should be able to do this. We haven't really learned how to comprehend their child to college. If they've been offered a summer program or summer bridge program, send them.
That's good. Yeah, parents.
You
That's
know,
real good.
and if I may interject there, because that's a problem that we really have in the school district. You know, we got 15% that everybody cares about. Those people going to college. Certain percentage of trades going to move on. And I always say, what about the rest? We had
Yes.
52 high schools and 24 came in at 0% in performance out of 100. And I always would say to the board, how do you achieve 0%? So they got smart with me and changed the report, and they took all the zeros out. Everybody's the same across all 52 high schools. So that's what they done did this year for. They say, okay, Mr. Cloud, guess what? Everybody's same now. So try to figure it out now. But I still figured it out. So I'm waiting for it next week.
Let me get these shells in this clip real quick.
But we seem to forget the rest.
I
Yes, sir. Let's not forget.
I agree with
And what's your number? What's your number again?
Them,
No, I'm saying, what's that number we forgetting? What's that number we are forgetting? 5,200?
52.
Did you say 5,200 students are being left behind?
No, I said it was like 80,000 black children.
Yes, 80,000 black.
So this is data. This is their data that they showing us. But yet, when a man says there, well, we're make the angry, gotta make the crowd angry. We gotta get angry.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we just gotta get angry with this
So,
stuff.
so cool. Would you say, can I ask you guys what how can the public libraries serve as a safe space for the intellectual freedom and resistance to learning? I mean, for reading, but also, is there a way that we can implement it as a annex funneling into what the school is not doing? Or the library being utilized?
Yeah, well, that was the first thought that came to my mind. It's almost like going to the gym. It only works if you get there, right? So,
Get to walk through the door.
you know, my question would be, you know, how do you get utilization of the library system up?
By the schools funneling, making them go, like, go to the library.
Put it online.
You know what I'm
Put the
saying?
lesson
Well,
online.
Right.
I just want to bring up something. I went to a community meeting and they said the libraries are stating that they're overwhelmed because they are being required to do more than just be a librarian. People need resources. They're asking people to come help. A lot of the
They don't have funding either.
children don't know how to
Basic,
use a computer, or you know, they don't have those understanding. They're hungry. So the library is being hit with other issues that the employees aren't equipped to handle. So I was suggesting about a partnership. And then someone was saying the library also has plenty of money. They don't like to pay. But if we're looking at what could be to our advantage, we have all of these programs out here. and we always work in silos. So maybe if 2 or 3 programs, these out of school programs, would take on a library, have your program at that library, and in exchange for that space, so help out, provide some of the services there, make sure those students and all who come there. Yeah, that's just a thought. But since you said the libraries are saying now they are overwhelmed.
But it is a catch-22 because the question that was asked, the first thing I was thinking about becoming Walmart. So before, when you went to a Walmart, it was just buying one thing. Today, now it's almost like you can get anything at Walmart. But if you're saying that they're overwhelmed, right, then you have to look at the decline of books. People are not really engaged in that physical book anymore and going to the library. So it's like, yeah, I know you're overwhelmed, but if we take away some of your program, then you won't be in existence. So how do we find a way to blend the two that we can really utilize it? Because at the end of the day, the library holds the books. The books are the curriculum to our lives. And if we diminish the library, then we just diminished our life.
Right.
So how do we find a way that we can utilize it where it's not too overwhelming for them? And I think a part of
that's what I was saying about programs. We know a lot of people have programs. This person and a lot of these programs, they lack support and they don't have this. That if we would come together instead of like, I'm just going to work my program. Like I'm looking this next cohort for the Peace Corps. I'm really looking to at least partner with 2 to 3 programs that we become a collective and that we can work together.
Yes.
Also,
everyone, no one can do all of it.
And we meet different people, so it's not just what Miss Jackie say or Queen Mother says. Now they're hearing other people that we don't even know that she brings in. They say the same type of things or different things. We just expand them. If we make small collectives,
You're helping each other too.
and then if we run those through a library, we all have our community libraries, at least 2 or 3 of them. We were supporting all.
From a value standpoint, when you put on an event and
Not an event, you run your program through there. A lot of programs need space. With the Mama Guild, we weren't having an event. We were going there for instruction. So if I'm in a program, I teach students and I know technology and computer as well, I say, okay, I'll come here and I'll give some instruction, not just to our students, but to other people who come in here because the library don't have enough staffing to teach them all. I say, okay, we'll come these days and we'll instruct. They're just ways to support.
Since the library staff can't do it, you can bring us in to do it.
So, we operate out of a library at a collegiate level. And that was one of the biggest things we're looking at. Why the students coming to the library to get the service? So even though they ran there, they're not coming.
Right.
Because they just have the frame mind that this is the library, this is what goes down. Library, that the library doesn't have to just offer books. We
have movie nights.
So the program, even though you run the program in there,
podcast.
The back of my mind, it's a library. I'm just thinking this is gonna be boring.
Right.
So the concept, how do you revitalize?
That's crazy because I've never seen the library as boring. To me, the library is like
Well, I mean, we got some of our biggest programs. The main library, people rent it. They go down there, they use it. All kind of programs. Everybody's down there.
But he's right though.
And the students that I've seen down there, the level of.
But the students that we're really trying to get to, right? The ones that we're saying that's illiterate, they're not going to the library because the concept is that this library is boring.
Well, that's not necessarily so. I mean, we always need to really get the stats because this is some of the problems. Like a lot of our young people, they say go in the library to use a computer because they don't have it at home. The problem is
And
they'll go there to
Roblox.
play games,
Say Roblox and
not
Minecraft.
necessarily do, homework or things like that. They'll go play games.
Now you incentivize them with that. You use that.
What is
Full of
the
memory back.
average
I do with
person
my son.
in that particular? I know, yeah, they may go there and utilize the computer, right?
Mm-hmm.
But how many children go to the clubs? Which one is more easier for them to go to? Which one of them go to social media on a day-to-day basis? So when you look at it, social media has more value. So I have an account with social media. I may not have an account with the library. I may not just go to the library for the program, right? But
They'll go to the library to do social
Well, let me show
media.
you
They
something.
don't. They go for the. They may not use it for the right way, but they're there.
But we gotta
And there's a lot of what I'm just saying is it's well rounded, and some of these information I get from actual youth.
Yes.
We've held roundtable, we held it with them. Those kids, they look at social media to see how can I safely get home, where the fight's happening. I need to get from where I am to get home and to avoid getting shot. Where the soft spot, what's popping off. These are 12-year-olds that were having these conversations. So what I'm saying is we sometimes take this broad brush of children that are not true, and we a lot of times and we really don't listen to them because we don't sit down with them. But
So I keep hearing the word incentivizing and taking
Mhm.
programs into the school, the library. And then I'm going back to the thing where we make it an illness and a treatment. So we make every library a treatment center and call it reading rehabilitation program. And if you have that, then you incentivize that. But what you do is you talk to the people or the children and say, what's your favorite story? Wait, how'd you hear about that? Then give them the book, the source. But the book is only found in the library. In order to read this book, you want to learn more about your subject, the story you like hearing or telling. Meet us at the library on Wednesday night.
That's interesting that you say that because hold on one second, check this out. Chance the Rapper, Chicago. He was trying to, produce his album. And he can only record the album. He can only get it done. Because it was so bad in Chicago, gangs, violence everywhere. He couldn't go to the studios. He had to go to the library to record his album. By him going to the library to record the album, then he ended up selling that. It was called a coloring book. He gets picked up, he gets signed. He donates $3 million. He makes $21 million. He donates $3 million back to the library for the library putting him on. So what I'm saying is, there's other reasons. There's ways of getting young people into the library.
Make it a safe space.
Yeah, it's safe space, creative space. Like I said, podcasting, video production, 3D printings at the library. So there's a lot of things to get them in, and those are the things I think that we can use to actually build the interest in learning and reading.
And those are some of the resources that also these programs need. These small programs, they don't have resources.
Right.
And these are some of the resources they need. And no matter what, we cannot operate in vacuums. It can't just be us. We have to, operate in community. And this is biggest thing with Horace and Mama Gail. They go out to make the community aware of what's going on to get them to be active within the education.
Right.
And I think the libraries have to be libraries have to be seen differently.
That's
So
That's what I'm saying.
if you're seeing them the same way that you've always seen them in the past. I mean, what they do is they use the media to change your concept of a thing.
Of course.
My students, we're building a brand new library within the next 2 years on our campus. There's not going to be a lot of books there. They're going to be going online to read the books. They're going to connect and do research online together as teams. So we have to develop, to me, the library, that term,
Evolved.
when they hear library today, they should think of something different than they thought
Not the
about.
4.0, the 5.0.
Right?
As a marketer, you
reading
can create
8.0.
images in
Yeah.
people's minds.
Right.
So if, just like Mark was saying about how many media messages people get, we get to control those messages, like say curated.
Right.
So we have that opportunity.
Here again, numbers. numbers, 80,000 or not. The most dangerous word in the conversation is partnership. And the school district tried to form a partnership with the Free Library of Philadelphia. In other words, they wanted to shift their responsibility of all the libraries they have in their schools to the Free Library of Philadelphia. So behind closed doors, I guess they said we can't do that. And they didn't do that. So, you know, it's back to, when you talk a $4 billion budget, why can't you have a library?
You're right.
It's just as plain and simple as that.
Because we gotta demand it and we gotta make them do it.
That's it.
And unify and demand that they do it.
That's it.
Period.
That's it. That's it.
And don't bend.
That's it.
In New Orleans, at McDonald number 35, there was 8th and 9th graders. Asked me how I got the students to respond to the assignment I gave them. I said, first off, they see you as an authoritative. You got to meet them on your level. And said, but if you notice, the first thing I wrote on the board when I came in was not my name. It was my favorite phrase that I told my children. Complacency has no place in me. There's no room for it to live or survive inside me. And every time they said the word can't, I made them read it as a group. They saw care. You care for them. And that's what the teachers were showing. I found three, and it was three children I remember. I don't remember their names, but I remember their stories. One common young lady and her sister raising her sister because mom was on crack. A young man, his uncle died, and it was his father's only brother, and he lived with his father, and it changed the dynamics of their relationship. And another one was a byproduct. Her mother was a prostitute, and her father was the customer. And she lived in the house with her father, who did not acknowledge her as his daughter, so his mother raised her. But the teacher never knew any of this. And she said, "How do you get them to open up? You got to meet them at what they want, the story they want to
Care for them there.
which goes back to the reading rehabilitation program. Find a program, a story they either like being told or a story they want to tell, and find the books related to their story, or find the programs related to their story, or the people who can help them.
Show them how glorious their story is.
Right.
You know, because most of the best stories are what we would call the worst circumstances.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If they're able to see it, you know, it's like, don't bore me, give me the glory. It's like the glory is a part of the story, it's what you've overcome.
Right.
You know, being able to show children, you know, that part of them, their uniqueness and how that actually shaped them to who they are.
And he lives this daily, and you know, with the information and access he has, and what I learned in the time I've been here, that the teachers ain't shit.
Right.
Can I say that on camera? Too late.
And a part of what you're sharing as well is not only just to make our students share the story that they can connect with, but also build their possibility. Because the way I wrote my last book, I use it in the context of how, like, a parent that does not have a lot of money, the parent would go out and the child wears, say, size 5 shoes, right? And there's a size 6 shoes that's on sale. So the parent would buy the size 6, even though the child wears a 5, knowing that, hey, you're going to grow into it. And that was the concept that I wrote my book on. It's like I wrote certain things where I want the child to get it at their level, but I wrote the size 6 version where you can't get it on your own. Why? Because I want you to go talk to your parents. And when you talk to your parents and you see as a different context of it, now you're able to grow from what you knew by yourself to now what you saw as a possibility of what else is out there. So, and it's intricate because when I started to look at songs are written typically in the experience of what somebody goes through. So now we're just exchanging experience after experience. Oh, I went through this, right? So I wrote a song about it. And because you can relate to it, all you're doing is just doing a relationship concept, and I'm on that level all the time. Oh, the song is great. It is.
Yeah.
But you're just relating to the things that have happened over and over and over again. Where is the possibility
Yeah.
where we can say this is 4, here's what 5 would look like? So we write it in advance. And I'm saying this because from an academic level, we typically prepare books for the grade level.
Mm-hmm.
And the child could be above that grade level, but you have to read on that level that the book is written on.
Right. Right.
So it's hard for you to now go to the next level because you're so trapped into this is the level that you're at.
I got you.
You want to let him come on?
He's not there.
Well, he'll hear it because you got a speaker. Just keep running back and forth.
There he is.
Okay.
Cuba.
Let me open up.
Dr. Henderson?
I gotta
Let's
open
call
up
him
the
Cuba.
speaker.
He's fine.
Let me open up your mic. That's it. I might have to come this way.
No, you got it.
No, I think I had to come this way to do it.
Get it.
Yeah. There he is.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So I want to make a statement, and I want to be very, very direct about this.
Turn your speaker down.
Okay, hold on. So I want to be very, very direct. The National Black Librarians Conference is in Philly this weekend. No, this summer. And then let me be so close to you. Clear, you went to New York at the License Use Library and was sponsored by National Black Librarians Association. Number 1. Kyle went to New Jersey and did the Black Librarians Conference. Dr. Stephen Jones, he came to Jones Middle School, and his book was cross-referenced across all libraries in the sector of Northeast Philadelphia. The LEAP program is one of the programs that sponsors all of our workshops across the country. I'm looking for an idea about what it is that we can do for now. The librarians are in colleges, public schools, college schools, boarding schools, juvenile detention centers. And then, so what it is, so Dr. Neal, Dr. Joe, you know I got you on this, about your proposal. But let us not be remiss how it is that we move, and then the research that needs to be done. So let me give you a background. Kyle Mars, National African American Studies Leadership Conference in Mississippi, Michigan, New York, and then so also please, you did National Give Back for Kids campaign in New Jersey. You also did the License Use Library in New York, and so we've been around. So let's be restitute an idea about what it is that we want to do. I need for you all to do an ask, since I submitted you all articles to the House of Umoja magazine. Give me an ask up to $1 million, so I can get you all that funding. My brother Kyle Mars, my leader, he'll talk to you about Make Free. He'll talk to you about being across the country. A lot of you all have, Dr. Jones, you've been to the Associated Black Cultural Centers in Maryland. They got 50 of them. Kyle is from Chambers, the teaching college. So between all you all, you got 100 alumni associations. Let's use them to tap into the resources about reading is resistance. And let's have a goal. Can you all please talk about goals? I have to go back on tour. So I want to thank you all. I did not know that you all were going to be there. I thank you all. Kyle, Make Free. Thank you, Clears, A Mountain of Miracles. Thank you, Dr. Jones, about teaching us about education. So I thank you all. I have to run. I didn't know that you all were going to be there, so I feel safe where I am. I got to run, but I wish that before that you all will leave, before you all leave here, that you will read from your works or read from the publication, if that is permissible. I thank you all.
They would like for y'all to read a piece.
Just find a piece.
4 questions to go through.
No, we can go there because I also want, after you share your piece, I also would like for you to recommend us something to read.
Well, maybe I can read some from,
That's what I said.
yeah,
Read
some
some.
pages
So I'm saying you
along.
don't have to read the whole thing. I just want you to read your piece that you think that
A portion,
a portion.
a paragraph, a selected piece. Kyle, use your voice. Your voice.
Well,
Thank you all.
All right.
I'm gonna take this.
Powerful black men. Y'all some powerful black men.
Your portion.
Are you? Start with Kyle?
Whoever's ready.
Whoever's ready, I'm
Yeah,
just trying to.
take your time.
So,
I have the table of contents, so we have first, well, you're first, Mark, on page 9. Then Dr. Jones, you're on page 15.
Okay, all right, I see one. So, I think it's near the end of my article. It says, love, lead, exemplify, no surrender. So again, I ask, where on the cycle of literacy do we intervene? Where are the emotional and intellectual opportunities to steer our community towards books, favorable content, and away from bullets? Who are the emerging leaders that can coordinate and focus energy on multiple fronts? It takes love. We must love our families, our communities, our legacies. We should be aware of and apply the mechanics of shifting cultural focus, curate and propagate the content, lead and exemplify. I already acknowledge that the adversary is effective, but we are not here to surrender.
Right. Thank you, Brother Mark.
Dr. Jones, you ready?
right, got it. So the title of my article is How to Revive the Imperiled Education System. Too many youth in our community suffer due to the high rate of crime and lack of commitment to education. We need educators who are committed to implementing strategies that bring about access to the best education for all students, not just a few schools. It is critical to our nation's future. With all this talk about education crisis, it seems like America is at a standstill. We need to make education a major priority wherever we go. We are fast approaching a significant period where large numbers of workers will retire. There's potential for a largely underutilized workforce which needs to be educated. Every time we take a look at our past, we need to prepare for our future. We have a loss of tax revenue in our cities because students aren't educated to take over those jobs. When people are employed, it creates an opportunity for progressive and growing communities across each of our cities and states.
Thank you.
And Cleos, you are page
Yes. So
36.
my article was based on functional literacy matters, and it's basically looking at it from a psychological standpoint where you have functional as in either you're functioning or you're going to be in that dysfunction aspect. And it was just looking at this simple 85% of all juveniles who interface with the juvenile court system are functional illiterate. So when you look at it from a literacy standpoint, it's like you're saying that, hey, we're going into a problem of not being able to what? Solve our problem. And when you're not able to solve your problem with each other, then you end up in a juvenile system. So that's what the article was really about.
Thank you.
Oh, I didn't write the article. I didn't write the article. I'd just like to say something real short. I guess the intellectual has to show up at a school board meeting and let the board know that the intellectuals care.
Funny you should say that.
Oh, did you write that?
No.
Oh.
It's perfectly timed. Good point. It's perfectly timed. That's why.
That's it. That's all I just want to say.
No, this is actually perfectly timed. Because it goes with what I wrote.
Awesome.
So mine is a thing, you know, based on the cliche, there's a thing called water where you can lead a horse to water. And it's my last paragraph. And what is it that artists as educators have to offer that regular educators don't? The answer has yet to be seen. I'm not implying that non-artists as teachers are not creative or passionate. It's just that maybe we as artists are more passionate about sharing because our level of creativity is one that incorporates art and science with images of life and sounds that public school systems ignore. Let's not ignore the children or each other. And remember, there's a thing called water. Make them thirsty enough that they want to drink it. So, good thing you just said.
So, question, would Mark, Dr. Jones, Cleo's, KD, would y'all commit to going to a school board meeting with Parks?
And being I live in Jersey, it'd be kind of
Oh,
we
just
can
when
I can show up. I can show up.
But
But you know, it's just a thing that I'm not, you know, I don't have any school age children, so I don't get any communication about everything I'm getting is what I see on the news. I don't have anybody bring home complaints.
your voice with perspective.
You know, but
Yeah, well,
but I did. But what I
honest.
did do, but hear me out. What I did do while sitting here, my son who runs a program, because like me going into the schools, I always told him, look how far I've come and surpassed me. He started a program where he now goes into the schools called the Eco Foundation. And I sent him a text. I said, yo, hit up these libraries, take this program in there, blah, 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 blah. He said, I'm on it. So I already got my son involved. He's already doing stuff with the schools by creating jobs to send people who teach into the school.
Good.
So, yeah,
But
show up.
So
And we're gonna be doing this more too, handling.
Huh?
Why you say you don't have anything?
No, I'm not saying I don't. Because I live in Jersey, like I have no voting power here. I have no.
Yeah, I don't think it's voting power.
I understand that because
It's your voice.
I know that, but see, I know, but my dad worked at City Hall, so I know the game. I know that whole game of like the politics. He worked at City Hall, so
We just need you to bring the truth, brother.
yeah, I'm gonna bring it because they can't hurt me.
Exactly.
You know, I got my, you know, all my kids are grown.
Exactly.
So
I mean, you can bring just one, everybody show up, you know. Again, if they think nobody cares and if they think they can duck and hide.
Right.
Because as much as I've been in the school system, and I go more than a day, I've always been with my kids. I spend days, I help out teachers.
And they're still
All of
they're on
that.
Broad
I
Street
would,
now.
all of the
They're
things
regular
that
Spring Garden.
he and Mama Gail talk about, that stuff didn't get to parental level, and I'm very involved in the community. So
No, this is the momentum that we're moving in though, as fathers.
So what's the day and time of these meetings?
We'll discuss.
Well, I mean,
We'll get that.
yeah, but I'm just saying we just
We'll be
commit to-
unified and you'll have enough time.
No, I mean, if I know, like, if it's like they have once a month and
Right.
it's a day, you know.
Once a month, usually the third Thursday,
Third Thursday.
four to whatever.
So what you do,
No, I'm
Jackie,
from North Philly.
let us know
Well, so
when
that's-
he's doing
that's
it.
right.
No, I mean, I'm just saying, I live in Jersey now.
I know, but it's okay.
We will do
You
it.
grew up in
Oh, yeah,
So there's a story for you to tell
right.
about your experience. I mean, I live in Springfield, but I grew up right down by 40th and Lancaster.
That was
So
economics.
they can't tell me anything about
Right,
that.
you're Philadelphia, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I'm always.
You're authorized to speak about anything happening in your community, period. You don't need permission to do good.
So we going as enlighteners or enforcers?
No,
You know my
enlighteners.
role.
We don't
I
enforce
need to
it.
know my
You
role.
can't force-
I'm just
that-
saying.
that's
I
all.
said it. I'm not
Enforce
saying
it.
enforcing. I'm just saying. And then I'll get, but, you know, when I walk through the door, I need to know if I'm going to like,
Nope,
from
nope.
there with an olive branch.
Yeah, it's coming to enlighten you
Okay.
and let them know that because us being in it together is we bringing the light.
that's right.
It's us. All this here, this is very powerful for me. You know what I mean? It's humor. We got a chance to, dialogue and bring out points. So they need to see this. You know what I mean? From the fathers. So, and this is the Million Fathers March, and we do this. And I think that Brother Horace needs the support, and yeah, we're going to unify and let them know that we are concerned about our children's education. We are concerned about getting state-of-the-art libraries and creative classes and poetry and, critical thinking.
Yeah,
That was,
that's another topic. That's another day's conversation.
Exactly. But I do want to thank each and every
Horace,
one of
you were
you.
saying something?
No, I was just telling Clea, this is just a side thing. We have 5 Olympic-sized pools, closed in Philadelphia. And 3 of them have diving wells, and that's very important. And they don't even see the value. See, it's not about the money. They just don't want to do it. That's it. So the statements from you guys would be about do it.
Making them do it.
That's all. I don't want to hear no money. There's no money. You got 16,000 employees. You ain't got to go outside really for anything. You just have to open it up within the employees and say, hey, I need a lifeguard. I need an instructor. I need this. I need a library. That's it. But do it. Period.
I like it.
And I'm just going back to, so let's read between the lines, because when we just came, and if you listen to everything that he has shared, right, you can say that he has an innate passion for what he does and helping children, right? But I think your first introduction was saying, hey, I tried to be on the board, but I didn't make it. So read between the lines. This is somebody who is passionate, and I know you're with Mama Gail, and on a weekly basis, not just here randomly, on a weekly basis, day by day, they're out there doing this. But he's saying that, hey, he tried to run for this position and he didn't get in. That means he didn't get the full support.
Right.
And this is what I'm saying. It's like when we read between the lines, yeah, you're passionate and you're out there, but it's like the community is not supporting him.
Right.
I bet you if it was a shooting and then we need a rally to go out there, we're out there in tons of people, right? But when you're making an initiative like this and saying this is what's happening to our children and you're out there on the battlefield on a day-to-day basis, he didn't make it because he didn't get the full support that he needed to actually transition in that position.
Right.
And you can see that our community is not supportive of these things.
Right. You got to bring awareness and you got to educate our community.
So this is where we need to go now and start, hey, listen, it's not just talk, man. We got to do it.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, we're saying literacy, right? But at the end of the day, it's like, are we really implementing these things in our children's life?
Right.
So they can see the value in it.
Right.
I would rather become a basketball player because I know it comes with a nice car, it comes with a nice house, it comes with a nice check than me sitting down here reading a book.
Right. But you still have to read that book because you got to take that money.
But some of them can't read. That's why they have people on their side to sign those contracts for them and stuff like that.
And then they get taken advantage of, like so many of our friends.
But those are things that we really need to look into because at the end of the day, I know it's a good way to say, hey, let's give literacy a chance. But are we really giving it a chance? Because at the end of the day, it looks good on camera.
Right.
But look at the results when you go out there in the real community and you have someone here every Friday you're on the radio, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And our community is not fully supporting it and you can see it.
Right.
I bet you if it was out there, you're talking about guns and other things, you'll have the community rally around you. But every week you're on the radio like, hey, education, this is what's going on with our children.
Right.
This is what's
They
going on
don't see the
with our
value
children.
and the need of it.
Yeah.
You got to show them the need and the value of it. The need, why it's needed.
But it's,
Those pools are for.
it's not, and it's, we talk it, but we got to really show it as a community. Because if we don't see the value in this, we just talk and it's only a pocket of us that's really making noise.
Right.
But at the end of the day,
like what you were saying,
it's the value of our children and the future of who we are. And quite frankly, we don't support these things.
Well, I don't see the children coming together until, like she said, organizations come together. You got to show your motion.
This is the thing. Sometimes people can feel overwhelmed saying like change the world and you think it's too much. too hard, so people give up. But so my thing for each person is, and we'll start with KD. What is one thing, you know, everyone is going to be looking at this. So what is one thing a parent, a community member, a neighbor, a teacher, what is one thing a person can do to begin to help with literacy? Can't take on a whole world of change, but what can I do? What is one thing you could recommend that a person can do?
Well, the word comes back to value, but it also has to be self-value. You have to know the value of yourself. So to get the child or the target market to see the value of themselves, what they can bring to society through reading and growing academically as an individual, and that they'll learn their place in life and create a space in their life where they grow and set a foundation for others that plant their seeds and then grow from and pollinate. Because the one thing I learned from reading is that the male tree is one that sends off the pollen, and the female tree is one that receives it, and then the seeds drop down from the female tree.
So
Mentor.
So that's it.
So
show them their value.
So
Get
show
people
them.
to
Okay.
see the value of themselves. Because we can see it. That's the thing about educators. And I'm probably the hardest teacher. My students, these are from preschool to college and adults. They say I'm hard because I want for them sometimes more than they want for themselves.
Me too.
And then I push them so hard that they either don't want to do the work because they're afraid to face themselves, or they praise me years later or see me now and say, that's why I became a teacher, because in the 60s, during the civil rights movement, having them teachers with dashikis and afros and picks in their head, and, and sandals, out there and talking and teaching and testifying. Then Miss Spicer, Mr. Flowers, Mr. Chambliss, I'm like, I want to do that. I mean, I did it for the school district, but I did it.
What I would say is this: go out and get a testing book, third grade testing book. It might sound, very trivial, but when you realize that your child can't pass the test, that should make you angry. If your child doesn't know cursive, how to write in cursive, if you do, teach your child how to write in cursive. Okay, it's just as simple as that, And if your child doesn't know how to sign their name, you teach your child how to sign their name. And then whoever they're hanging around with, give them the test, teach them cursive, and teach them to sign their name. That's what we can do on the lower level.
For me, I would say our children are faced with a lot of social issues, right? And as a parent, find a way to help the child or children with the social issues that they're going through. It's not a reading issue that we're having, but when you're plagued down with so many social issues on a day-to-day basis, you don't see the value in reading. And as we're talking about literature, right? It's almost like if you have a burden, a rock on your head, if somebody takes the rock off, then what happens, you're able to see things from a different angle. So these things that we're asking our children to go and read, if you take their social issues away, you don't even have to tell them to go do it. Because now everything would be cleared up and they can see, hey, I need to go get this on my own.
Right.
And
They call it woke.
yeah, so, and I work at how would I say, a university institution. And we work in the department where the students are on the verge of failing out of class, out of school. So we have to help them to get them back on the academic track, right? And to me, when I work with them, I'm like, you don't have an academic issue. You have a social issue that's burdening you. And then now to put the academic on it is like another layer of your issue. And what I've done is work with them through their little social issues, just helping, hey, what are you going through? And just a little thing like that, just having a conversation and they're able to release. It's like when I get to the lesson now when I'm teaching difficulty or a learning barrier. It's just your social issue that now plaguing you. You can't get to the academic aspect. So as parents, whatever your children are going through, get them that social help that they'll need.
That's interesting that you say that. That was also on NPR, and when that was your brother speak. NPR, there was a study that they were wondering why a professor looked at his class and he noticed that a lot of the Asian students were passing. And a lot of the African American students wasn't passing. He's like, yo, they're learning the same thing. What is causing them to not get it when these people are getting it? And then he watched them. He went and he left. He would go after class to see how they actually approached learning and studying. And he come to find out that the only difference was that the Asian students studied together socially. You saw that? They studied together among themselves socially. They made sure each other got it, while all the black students were isolated, doing their own thing, trying to get it by themselves, because we know we self-made, and I got to get it up out the mud by myself when you didn't even make yourself. You know what I'm saying? So going back to that point, the social construct, the social component is very important. Dr. Jones?
So, not to have a commercial, but I wrote a book.
Third time you mentioned that book in 5 minutes. He wrote a book, y'all. What's the name of the book? Do you have a book with you? Hold it up.
I do. Seven Secrets of How to Study.
Okay.
And the reason why I wrote it was because of that most students don't anywhere in elementary school, middle school, high school learn how to study.
Yes.
And I talk about group study in that most students don't, and they don't even know how to get a group together.
Right.
So that's another part of the issue. So they feel isolated on these college campuses because they don't know how to do that. So
Yes.
that's my little stuff.
Thank you.
What I wanted to comment on is, and I'm going back to athlete because I was in college and elementary school. I was an athlete. And so I think what young people don't know is all the careers that are connected to being an athlete.
Yes. And music and everything else too.
Yeah, so there's all these different professions, the management of it, the financing of the sport industry,
Yeah.
the media, the technology, the security, the health, all of that. Those are jobs that are all in this industry, and no one's exposing them. All they're talking about is what they're going to do on the field, and not what the career. And that should start from, again, elementary school, middle school, and take them out to a game, show them all the people that are making the game happen.
Yes.
And so
Field
that
trips.
will,
You
field
get
trips.
tours.
Yeah.
You go to the offices and get tours to
So-
go to the back offices.
So let me show you how to tie this in. Because you know reading, right? When you have a paragraph, the paragraph of what is called sentences. The sentences comes from words.
Right.
The words come from letter.
Right.
So when you look at that, it's like saying that our children are stuck at the letter. And they don't see how to take the letter and make it into a word, then the word into a sentence, the sentence into a paragraph, the paragraph into a chapter, the chapter into a book. They're not able to see all those things.
Now I'll have to proclaim.
One thing with that, which no one told me I had to learn this, based on my mother always saying, you're not going to get rich working for somebody else, you got to have a hustle. And now I always taught my children, go to school to be an employee, not an employee. And that's what they do. They all got their hustles.
And if I can piggyback on the doctor, there's 13 middle grade sports that the school district offers. But you might have 50% of the schools offer 0. So that's why we say bring back junior high school, so they all can be introduced to the 13 middle grade sports.
Yes.
See
There's a lot of
that
things.
downsizing is very important. And if you guys come out and support me, that would be the main thing, is to get them 7th and 8th graders out of those K to 8s and put them in their own buildings where you can bring back middle grade, because they used to have what, junior varsity sports?
Yeah.
Junior varsity sports. So they still have the sport, but here again, schools above the river get access to schools below.
Yes.
That's what's happening.
So there's two pieces. And one, I don't actually think there's one answer, but I think there's sort of one direction. And that is to be able to stimulate the child's curiosity.
Yes.
And to be able to be curious about something other than someone else's business.
Yes.
So to follow on from that, one of the most valuable things an adult did for me as a child, I said, so-and-so, what is such and such? You know what they did? Gave me a dictionary and told me to look it up. And from looking that up and being curious, I'm like, there's a definition. Well, I don't know what that word means. So now I got to
But that word, treasure seeking.
Right. So look, I wrote a book about what's the name of your book? What's your book called?
Shameless plug.
But I wrote a book about how to apply Roget's thesaurus to expanding vocabulary and the concepts and the structure around that and how that can positively impact literacy. And it recommends that as an exercise for parents to do with children. The whole look it up and let's see how we can spread out from there. So
the treasure. That's what it means. It's treasure.
It's on your curiosity, right? So I wrote a book too.
Somebody has authority.
The book was based on curiosity.
Yeah.
Because I was like, hey, I was curious if the regular book could be extended beyond just the regular book. So what I created was a bookazine. A book and a magazine. That was my curiosity of saying, hey, I'm an author of 8 books. What could my 9th book be?
Right.
And now I created what is called the Airport Adventure Bookazine. A book, storybook, and then a magazine that actually supplements the story itself. And that's where I actually developed the book tasting from.
Nice.
Which was another curiosity. It's like, hey, why do we just have to do a book signing?
Right.
Why can't
Thinking
we do
outside the
something?
box. Yeah. Creativity.
Yeah.
Articulation.
Dang that, but I wrote a book. But mine was books of poetry. They're not they're novels, they're bestsellers. My first book was The Mentality of Man. It was observational poems based on how, after talking to men and fathers and boys and taking those conversations and experiences and making series of poems.
I wrote a book.
And I don't read books. I'm just one of those people that just work with my hands, just study all different trades, stuff here, and that's basically it. So that's my life track.
Yeah.
I didn't read your book.
I need to mention one other, and I really didn't get a chance to contact him to bring him in, but Omar Tyree, he wrote an article, which is pretty good. He has a literacy program, and it's on the same vibe.
Very good.
So, but he will be here on, I think, May 29th. He'll be in Philly at the library.
Okay.
So there's opportunity for everybody to support him. His book is Control, but he wrote the article in one day.
May I also add something
Yeah.
to that? Omar has a program to teach literacy,
Yeah.
and it's incredible. And we're working to get him in the district doing it. He did a workshop before online, and a couple of teachers came. That was it. The district paid for it.
Wonderful.
They didn't show up. I want y'all to hear that.
Interesting.
But yeah, he was excited. He just couldn't, because he is on tour, he couldn't get here this early. But for some reason, just kept missing. He didn't get the information about it, whatever, but found out all the stuff was going to spam. So first we didn't have any more room, so I just dropped it. But then we wound up with another page. I said, Omar, if you can get me a page by tomorrow. And I said, I know you got stuff to write. He wrote, instead of one page, he got me about 6. I'm gonna have to cut this down. But Mom liked it so much, she gave him 2. So, but
You may take this on the road, guys.
May I
Yeah.
say something?
Yes, ma'am.
On, I didn't want to, you finished, right?
Yes, ma'am.
You finished up with this.
Yeah.
This is from now.
Yeah. I
Okay.
think it's done.
okay. Alrighty.
No,
So
no, she's about to speak though. She want to say something.
did you want me to shut this down?
That's up to you, because I knew you wanted the father thing, and then talking.
No, it's okay.
We just had 2 brothers with a group of children 2 days ago. And I was so high from the energy, I didn't sleep all night after I watched them with these 2 brothers. I had a brother, Nakia Dillard, who's an actor.
Yeah,
my man.
yeah, we are on the kid.
And then brother Stephen Wise, Catriel, and he's here from Jamaica right now. And I had him speaking to these young people, 11th, 12th graders, and to hear how quickly and intimately they would talk, not knowing any of us. It was unbelievable how much they want to tell,
Engage.
how much they want to hear from you. And so we took them, I took them upstairs to special ed after that. We had regular ed children, took them up to special ed children. What I had Catriel do was play. With the regular ed, they had to go. I said, please play something. Pulled out the saxophone, and you could see it touch their soul. They couldn't move. That music went through them. They didn't know him, didn't know anything about him. But when he played that song at the end, that was it. When we went upstairs, he played the flute for the special ed children. And then he showed a video of him and his family in Jamaica doing a piece around the earth and what's happening, how we're mistreating it. They came alive. It was so amazing. And I've been taking people into schools for years to talk to the children. I don't care what anybody says or that you hear, people aren't doing something. People are always doing something, right? That what you think they're not doing, they're doing. There's always ways to get them to do it. And you have teachers and principals that need your help, know they need your help and want your help because they know they can't do it alone. You talked about the libraries. I was thinking when you were talking how 52nd Street Library was shut down, right? For how many years, right? To renovate it. So right now we have recreation centers that are shut down and libraries that are shut down and pools that are shut down right now. I'm saying we got to do something because God only knows what the summer will look like if we don't. We don't have a choice right now. And I was thinking as you were talking libraries, back to the past, right? The ancestors said we're to go back to the basics for new beginnings, right? Then we have a bookmobile that came. We didn't have a library. We had the bus that came around. We got on the bus and got our books, right? So I have a friend that has buses sitting there that he wants to sell, school buses. There's some of them that are, it's not a commercial. Some don't have wheels on them. There's some like gutted, or you can gut it and make a classroom, put it in a lot or something, or you can buy a used school bus and do what you want with it. I'm just saying we got to go back to what we did. Right?
Yeah.
So, having said that, reading is something that I think when you were talking, I was thinking my friend came to me years ago. Her son